participating in the tour of the historic Toronto Jail on September 4th, 2009 here.
Actually, while we're here, I'll tell you a little bit about this part of the thing first. So this was the atrium. So this was sort of like the central processing wing of the entire prison. And now when this prison opened, one of the so-called amenities that it offered was that prisoners were actually allowed to meet with friends and family members once a month in this part of the prison. Now, in most pre-20th century jails, this was very much ahead of the time. In most pre-20th century jails, once you're in, and you're cut off from all contact with the outside world. But here in the Dawn, prisoners were at least allowed to maintain some semblance of contact with, their friends and family members or whoever chose to visit them. But more in line with the times, any prisoners that broke the rules, which could be for something as simple as talking, you weren't allowed to talk. If you broke the rules, the guards would take you down here to this section of the prison and they would flog you mercilessly. And now the reason it was done here was because there's cells on this floor, on the second floor, and on the third floor. So they figured that the tormented, anguished screams of these prisoners being flogged in the rotunda would be carried to all the people, all the prisoners locked away in the cells, and would be a reminder of exactly what would happen if you disobeyed the rules. And if you really broke the rules, let's say you killed someone while you're in here, or you tried escaping, you would be sent below our feet to solitary confinement. We call it the hole, just like Alcatraz calls theirs the hole. Unfortunately, this part of the prison is off access on the tours. I've never even been there myself, because apparently, from what I've heard, the new prison next door is using it as their laundry room, right? Or something like that, right? It's being used by the new prison. But I picked up some anecdotal information by a guard on one of my tours. So the way he described it was, first, you would have a couple of doors shut behind you. So there was perpetual darkness, complete absence of sunlight or artificial light, and prisoners would be forced to sleep on a thin board overnight, so there's no bed or hammock, and they would be fed nothing but bread and water. So this was for extra punishment. And this prison was designed by a guy named William Thomas. He was an architect from Suffolk, England. And apart from the aesthetic value of this building, it was also meant to intimidate prisoners. For example, if you look underneath the catwalks here, you will see metal support beams in the shapes of dragons. Now those dragons were supposed to invoke fear, intimidation in the hearts of the prisoners. And also, we believe that there is a biblical reference in there. They were supposed to remind prisoners of the consequences of temptation. They're supposed to remind prisoners that, it was temptation that got them in here in the first place. If they yielded to temptation while they're in here, they would be, they'd be punished, they'd be flogged here in the atrium, or, sent below us and flogged, or, they'd have to spend time in the hole. And if they ever got out and they yielded to temptation again, of course, they'd end up right back here in the Dawn. So they were supposed to remind prisoners of the snake in the Bible that tempts Eve and gets her and Adam kicked out of Eden. And above us towers the rotunda. I know it's not a real rotunda because rotunda implies round, but until one of you guys wants to correct me and tell me what that's really called, I'm just going to have to keep calling it the rotunda on all the tours. And it was boarded up in 1977 because they were scared of glass falling on people. But when Bridgepoint renovates the prison, they're going to restore the rotunda to its former glory, and they'll have sunlight pouring down here once again. Now, I don't know if you guys heard about the ghost tours that we were doing a couple months ago. Because the ghost tours have been canceled, I've actually been amalgamating the ghost tours with the daytime historical tours. So, while we're here in this part of the prison, I can tell you a couple of the really dark, gory stories that happened right here in this part of the prison that I was telling on the ghost stories.